The Chicago Bears continue to receive some really good news in regard to the trade market, and today's episode of Keek on the Mic starts right now.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Happy Saturday, Bears fans. We are one day away from the Sunday matchup against the New Orleans Saints in Chicago, where the Chicago Bears are looking for their fourth straight win. Later on in today's episode of Keek on the Mic, I once again had ex-Chicago Bear Isaiah Fry to break down the Saints versus Bears matchup tomorrow. But before we get to that interview pregame show with Isaiah Fry, I just wanted to give you guys a quick little update in regard to the trade market and how it really benefits the Chicago Bears. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler actually shares the latest on which names could be available at the trade deadline, and it's really good news for Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, and the Chicago Bears to possibly be aggressive, especially if they win the next couple of games. I believe, as a Bears fan, that Ryan Poles and the Bears could be extra aggressive in adding a huge area of need, which is the edge rushing position. The names that Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said that could be available at the trade deadline in regard to the edge rushing group is Jaelan Phillips of the Dolphins, Bradley Chubb of the Dolphins, Will McDonald of the Jets, and Jermaine Johnson of the New York Jets as well. Bears fans, these are all really, really good names for the Chicago Bears to consider at the trade deadline. Just keep this in mind, Bears fans. Dayo Odeyingbo has 8 total pressures this season for the Chicago Bears. Jaelan Phillips of the Dolphins has 20. Bradley Chubb has 13. Will McDonald has 13. And Jermaine Johnson has 9. It's no question that the Chicago Bears need to get better on the defensive line and generate a little bit more pressure. We are all hoping as Bears fans that Austin Booker coming off IR, maybe that he will give his defensive line some juice. But let's say if Austin Booker comes back and he is also struggling, it doesn't make a huge difference, I can definitely see Ryan Poles picking up the phone and trying to make a huge addition on this defensive line as we approach the NFL trade deadline. So when you look at a couple of these guys, Jaelan Phillips, 6'5", 263 pounds. Bradley Chubb, 6'4", 275 pounds. Will McDonald, 6'4", 245, only 26 years old. And then Jermaine Johnson, also only 26 years old. I would personally say that Bradley Chubb would probably be a little bit too expensive for the Chicago Bears, just knowing that with our cap space currently being only at $8.2 million for the rest of the year, I am not sure if we can maybe afford a player like Bradley Chubb in terms of not only his price tag in terms of contract, but also the draft capital that we would possibly have to give up in order to get a guy like Bradley Chubb. But when you look at a guy like Jaelan Phillips, Will McDonald, even Jermaine Johnson, that actually makes a whole lot of sense for Ryan Poles and the Bears because all 3 of those guys are still on rookie contract. It will only cost the Bears $3 to $4 million for this season and probably next season as well to have these guys on the roster. So I do like the idea of that. Every single one of these guys, probably outside of Bradley Chubb, would cost the Bears maybe a second, third, maybe even a 4th round pick if you get lucky. So I don't think the trade compensation in return to get one of these guys would be very high. But if, in my personal opinion, if I was Ryan Poles, if I was general manager of the Chicago Bears, I feel like the player that I would want out of these 4 is definitely Will McDonald. Once again, has 13 total pressures this season, 6'4", 245 pounds, 26 years old, still has 2 years left on his rookie contract, plus the 5th-year option. So the Chicago Bears would have control of a very young, productive edge rusher for the next couple of years. Had 10.5 sacks in 2024, has 2 sacks so far this season. He's currently 13th in the league in true pass set win rate at 26%. Really nice speed to power as well. I think he would could be a really nice addition, a young, nice addition to the Chicago Bears defensive line. A guy that's been productive. If it wasn't for the New York Jets secondary being so bad this season, I think he would probably even have a little bit more sacks. But I think looking at the current state of our secondary and the fact that the Chicago Bears have been one of the best takeaway teams this season in the NFL, I think this would be a pretty big upgrade for this Bears defensive line that has been struggling to get consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. You add them with Montez Sweat, Dio Dangbo, maybe actually push Shamar Turner inside, because Shamar Turner's actually been playing defensive end, which he looked pretty good at, but to put Shamar Turner back at his natural position so he can help us in the middle, getting a guy like Grady Jarrett back, putting him back into the middle, I think Will McDonald would be a pretty nice addition to the Chicago Bears defensive line. So over the next couple of weeks, as the NFL trade deadline is approaching, on November 4th, we will continue to monitor these situations. But obviously, this is some pretty big intel from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler of the guys that could possibly be available. Of course, when you look at both the Dolphins and the Jets, they have been struggling a whole lot this season. And I think if they continue to struggle, they can both be big sellers at the trade deadline. And these are all solid options for the Chicago Bears to try to improve their pass rush situation here in Chicago. So Bears fans, out of these four names I listed on today's episode of Geek on the Mic, which one would you like to see in a Chicago Bears uniform? Let me know down below in the comment section. So Bears fans, let's go ahead and get into the Saints and Bears pregame show with Isaiah Fry. So Bears fans, we are on to week 7 as the Chicago Bears head home at Soldier Field and take on the Saints. And as always, I am joined by Isaiah Fry. How you doing, Isaiah?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good. Hey, 3 in a row. Start off 0-2. Now the Bears are all of a sudden 3-2. I'm guessing your reverse psychology worked for the game against the Washington Commanders. But before we go any further, give me your initial reaction of that huge win on Monday night.
That was a great win, man. Washington's a good team, and for them to be able to go up early, kind of give up the lead a little bit, but then stay strong and stay mentally in it, and pull out a victory at the end, man. It says a lot about this team. I think the culture is the biggest thing I can talk about. They're learning how to finish the games now, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I said the other day on the podcast when we were down 24-16, if this was other eras, or generations within the Chicago Bears, whether it was Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus, I would have probably said the game's over. Right. But
right.
The fact that, our team as a whole, and which includes our young quarterback and Caleb Williams, stayed calm, cool, and collected and was unfazed in that big moment. And of course, you got some big plays and a huge game from DeAndre Swift as well. And they really pulled through the adversity, rather with the, calls from the refs seemed like it was going towards Washington's favor the whole game. It seemed like everything was going against the Bears, and they really pulled through all that adversity and came away with a huge win.
Absolutely. I as a coach and, playing this game a long time, the biggest thing you hear is manage the ebbs and flows of a game. And that's the thing they're doing really, really well right now. And if they can continue to do that, man, it's going to be a really good season. So that was super, super encouraging to watch.
Yeah, and I even said that at one point that the NFL should really beware of this version of the Chicago Bears, because this is a version that we haven't seen in a very long time. Once again, they're finding different ways to win football games. And the conversations that we were having the last couple of years, Isaiah, was the Bears would always find a way to lose these close games. So I think this version of the Chicago Bears, and they're barely even scratching the surface, not only on offense, but the defense as well. So that's one of the big things that I kind of been talking about over the last couple of days after this game. Another big conversation piece over the last couple of days was the comments made by quarterback Hall of Famer Troy Aikman. Obviously, him and Joe Buck were the analysts for Monday night's game against the Commanders. And it seemed that during the duration of the game, and like I said, I'm usually live, so I can't really hear, but it seemed like for the duration of the game, Bears fans were very displeased by the fact that it seemed that Troy Aikman was kind of being negative maybe towards Caleb Williams and the Bears, rather, when you're looking at how he was speaking on the Commanders and Jaden, it was totally different. So even made a comment about after that 55-yard touchdown to DeAndre Swift that was lucky. So I want to get your take on this, just knowing that you were a former player in the league, and just give us your opinions on Troy Aikman.
As players, we always hope that the analysts will do right by the players and just stay neutral. And we understand they have a job to do. But you never want to hear them kind of lean towards one way, especially from a fan base. I think it takes the joy out of the game because they're supposed to give a neutral view on what they're watching. Especially with a guy like Troy, man. He's a Hall of Famer, had a great career. It's been a great, in my opinion, it's been a great analyst since he started. But you can't let things that have happened prior to the game take that emotion into it and take those calls with it. So I think I think it was bad for Bears fans to be able to have the witnesses. I think Troy probably didn't even realize he was doing it until after watching it back. But at the end of the day, everybody has feelings, man, and sometimes they get hurt. But as a color analyst, you cannot do that, man. You got to be as neutral as possible.
I really no hard feelings about it. I think if anything, he gave guys like Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, because both Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams did react to it. Ben Johnson kind of alluded to it in his interview with Jeff Joniak, the voice of the Chicago Bears, and Caleb Williams made a post as well. And I think all he did is gave us fuel. Right. I think they're going to take it to heart. And if anything, I kind of feel bad for the Saints now because I think we are such, or at least the Bears and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, everyone in organizations are such competitors that they kind of want to prove them wrong. And that was the point that I was trying to make this week, Isaiah. I was like, hey, who cares what any haters have to say? Go out there and prove them wrong. And the best thing that the Bears can do is continue to win. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or you win by 50 or you win good or ugly, right? If you continue to win, the haters will continue to shut up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can guarantee that Caleb and Ben are using it as motivation, but deep down inside they probably really don't. They can care less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. Yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion, knowing that you were, a former player in the league. And I know you guys probably are wired and think differently in those moments. So we really appreciate that, Isaiah. So we're now moving on to week 7 against the Saints. We are currently a 4.5-point favorite. The Saints are currently 1-5. They're 4th place in the NFC South. The Bears are 3-2, 4th place in the NFC North, which, mind you guys, the NFC North, once again, we kind of expected this going into the season, but they look like the best division in the National Football League. But Isaiah, when you look at this matchup against the Saints, what's your initial reaction?
Trap game.
Yes.
Yeah, you just look at the record, trap game. But we spoke about it before the cast. You said a good thing. They're actually not a bad team. They've been in some games that they probably could have pulled out. They're just not finishing. They're kind of where Chicago has been the last couple of years as far as finishing the game. So it should be a better game than what most people think, but I fully expect. I'm not going to say that right now. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to keep that alive. Yeah. But if Chicago just does what they're supposed to do, man, they should play a good game.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look at the Saints, just like you alluded to and what we discussed before hopping on, they're a pretty good football team. Been competitive for the most part this season. Week 1 lost 20-13, 26-21, 31-19, 26-14, 25-19. So those are all pretty close games. So I believe that with the culture that it's instilled here in Chicago, Ben Johnson knows that, Caleb Williams knows that. They aren't taking any opponent lightly. They understand that they put their best foot forward, and that's exactly what we're going to get from the Saints as well. They're going to put their best foot forward. They're itching to come in here and try to find a win, their second win of the season. And something that's kind of interesting about this game, Isaiah, and I kind of wanted to get your input on it on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, is that there's a little history here between Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams back to their Oklahoma days. Obviously, Caleb Williams came in and, took Spencer Rattler's job. He ended up transferring to South Carolina, ended his career there. Now they're facing off for the first time in the National Football League. When they interviewed Spencer Rattler, they asked, hey, do you have a relationship with Caleb Williams? He said, it's cordial. Just very blunt about it. So now obviously you know what the media does with that, right? They're like, This is a rivalry. This is a revenge game for Spencer Rattler. How do you anticipate that going on Sunday?
Yeah, they're going to be competitive. I think, Spencer probably has a chip on his shoulder for what happened to him at Oklahoma, because he was doing well before Caleb got there. But Caleb was just a better quarterback at the time, even though he was younger. So, yeah, I can see him coming in with a chip on his shoulder, trying to prove, Lincoln Riley, trying to prove him wrong, and he made a decision. So, yeah, we'll see. Anytime we can be, I've never been a fan of Spencer Rattler ever since I watched him on that show. So anytime you can beat him and beat him pretty handily, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it should be interesting because, the media is going to eat this alive. And I'm pretty sure the analysts will probably bring this up as well. Like, oh, you remember
Right,
back in Oklahoma, Caleb Williams,
right,
took
right.
Spencer Rattler's job. It's definitely going to be a part of the storyline against the Saints on Sunday. So when we're looking at the injuries, Isaiah, the Chicago Bears are actually getting a pretty big boost as it seems. They released Tano Passigno, and that kind of signals that Austin Booker, second-year edge rusher out of Kansas, is set to return off of IR. Had a really good preseason for the Chicago Bears. So, Bears fans, including myself, we're really excited and anticipating that he's going to come out and make a huge impact. As we all know, the pass rush has been pretty much non-existent. They looked better against the Commanders on Monday, so say. Really getting pressure on Jaden Daniels and also turnovers as well. But we all think that maybe Austin Booker can be the missing piece. And we talked about it before hopping on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. If Austin Booker comes out and with all the trade talk and trade deadline coming up in the National Football League and he comes out and plays well, the Chicago Bears could possibly have opportunity just to keep their picks and continue to develop maybe their young core of pass rushers here.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you don't have to give up anything and win, I think that's a win for the organization. I will say though, if they have an opportunity to upgrade that position, not necessarily the DN position, but definitely the D tackle position, I think at least explore it, just because it's gonna help with a multitude of different things. Your run game, your pass, especially your run game, your pass game. So, I think you at least entertain it, and like we talked about, you really don't have to start focusing on getting a running back anymore. You can save that.
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift is he's serviceable. He's doing a good job. And I've been saying this the whole year. And then once they get more comfortable in the offense, man, he's just going to continue to produce. So I would entertain it still.
Yeah, I knew the second that DeAndre Swift was having that breakout game against the Commanders, I was like, I know Isaiah Fry is smiling from ear to ear right now, because usually the stuff that Isaiah says comes true, right? He said the same thing about Kyler Gordon, obviously with DeAndre Swift, big fans of both of those guys, and DeAndre Swift had himself a game, and I think it had a lot to do with the small change they made on the offensive line, and then them really focusing on one scheme that fits the skill sets of their players, which is the outside zone scheme, right?
Right.
And I do want to give a huge shout out to Theo Benedict, the young left tackle that took Braxton Jones' spot. He had a heck of a game, and the entirety of the offensive line looked really good as well. So yeah, I'm definitely in agreement that hopefully this week he can, continue to be that player that we know he can be against the Saints team that I think he can take advantage of. And then obviously with Austin Booker, hopefully he comes back and adds a little bit more juice to this defense as well. But I'm definitely agreeing. So if Jeffrey Simmons is available out there, Tennessee Titans, you can bring him over here to Chicago for sure.
Right. And looking back, man, I think we had that question last week. It was like, okay, if DJ Moore was a piece in that trade, I have an answer to it now. I wouldn't do it.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it, man. I know I was kind of in the middle last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
I can't do it. It's one of those things, and Bears fans kind of brought it to my attention after last week's video, and we were getting drilled for it for sure. And I wasn't really saying that we should trade him. It was more of just the idea, like, hey, if this comes about and you have opportunity to get Jeffrey Simmons, and they only want DJ Moore, would you do it? But now looking back at it, DJ Moore is what makes this operation run on offense, truthfully.
He does.
Because if without DJ Moore, Roma Dunze wouldn't be getting opportunities that he gets, or
Right.
Colson Levin, or DeAndre Swift. DJ Moore is still a very valuable asset to this offense, and the way that they're using him, I absolutely love it. So
yeah, absolutely, man. That's the perfect way to put it. He just does so many different things, and he's taking a lot of attention off of Dunze, man. So that's part of the reasons why he's exploding right now. So absolutely, I agree.
For sure, I definitely agree. So as we look at this game, Isaiah, I think it's very self-explanatory. The Bears have to go and just handle business, right? It could definitely be a trap game. You even saw last night. I know it was division, but the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Steelers was even a shock. And I know that I was talking to a couple of Steelers fans, like, "Oh, this is probably a trap game for us," and they're absolutely right. You do not want to be what just happened to the Steelers last night. This is going to be a team that's hungry to win. I see opportunities for both the offense and the defense to have good games. When you're looking at the Saints stats overall, they're very much just middle of the pack on offense and defense. When you're looking at offense, getting the running game going once again is going to be key. And then feeding off of that energy, play action, taking shots downfield. Want to make it very known that the Bears offense, the Ben Johnson effect, is a real thing. They're the only team in the NFL in the first couple of weeks of the season to score 21 plus points. They're a top 10 scoring offense. I don't know when the last time we've been able to say that about a Chicago Bears offense. And we look at the defense. Yes, they have struggled against the run. They struggle with pressure, but they're number 2 in turnover. So I think if we can see those same things, the defense getting offense turnovers, the Bears offense capitalizing off those turnovers, I think we can be fine.
Absolutely. In NFL, man, it's the games are going to be just like they were the last couple of weeks. Those are the games. This was going to be 60% of the game. So if you can pull out, if you come out of those games right there and winning 7 out of 10 of those, man, you're having a really, really, really good season, man. So, that's all from coaching and culture. So, it's exciting to watch.
And that is the big thing here. From week to week, you're seeing Ben Johnson elevate himself and give us vindication like, hey, he was the right move. There's a reason why we brought him here to Chicago, and he's answering all those questions as a leader, as right. Would he be able to handle, calling offensive plays and being the overall head coach? He's answering all those questions. He has been outstanding, Isaiah. Right, absolutely, man. He's what they hyped him up to be, man. Definitely. Exactly. So here we go. We're not going to waste any more time on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. Isaiah, I'll let you start off. Who is winning this Week 7 matchup between the Saints and the Bears? I got Saints winning 27-17. Okay. I don't think we need to explain ourselves because I feel like we would jinx it if we explain why Isaiah is doing this. So, you're gonna get grilled in the comment section for sure. But hey, you guys will maybe at the end of the season, hopefully if the Bears make the playoffs, then you guys probably understand what's going on, but we'll explain later on down the road. That's hilarious. So it's 27-17 Saints for Isaiah. For me, I'm gonna say the Bears are gonna win 27-13. I think, the defense will continue to roll. I think I saw a big adjustment in stopping the run against the Commanders last week, which was absolutely huge because, they had the number 1 rushing offense and the defense didn't do too bad. They have been getting turnovers after turnover after turnover in very big moments. And then getting Austin Booker back, I think that's going to be a nice addition to add juice to this defense. And on the offense side of the football, I think Caleb Williams is going to continue to do what he's been doing, which is just being a true leader and just being there in the big moments and making big time plays and throws all game long. So I think the Bears are going to win 27-13 and go to 4-2. Shout out to Caleb too, man. His decision making has been superb these last couple of weeks, man. So it's exciting, man. It's exciting time to be a Bears fan for sure. And that's why I don't understand that. Like, even after the game, it's like, the game's over. Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams have a bunch of respect for each other. But after the game, you had the Commanders fans and Bears fans attacking each other saying, oh, Caleb steals this, Caleb Williams is this. And it's just like, Caleb Williams was the better quarterback that day, right? 252 yards, 2 total touchdowns. And the biggest stat was 0 turnovers. He didn't turn over the ball. Right. He didn't even flinch in that big time moment when the defense gave us back the ball with 3 minutes left. Even though it was mostly DeAndre Swift, still had to make that big-time throw to Coastal Level on 3rd and 5. Right. To me, he was the better quarterback that day, and that's what it is. Yeah. No, it was. It happens, man. You're not going to win every matchup, dual matchup with the quarterbacks, but, you got 2 of the freshest quarterbacks in the league, man. They're going to be the face of it soon. So just be happy for both teams that you got those 2 quarterbacks as your team. Absolutely, 100%. So, Isaiah, as always, I appreciate you coming on each week and giving your Bears insight. Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. So, Bears fans, as always, comment down below your final score prediction for this Week 7 matchup against the Saints. And as always, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for our all-new Bears podcast right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down. Bear down.
Cali, the shot town is Bears on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the Mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.